Wow, that is a warm welcome. In the 1960s, 1970s, and 1980s, I was a socialist. Today, I'm a patriot. I love America. I love the vision of our founding fathers. I love the Federalist Papers, the Declaration of Independence, and the Constitution of the United States of America. But in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, I was a socialist, I was an atheist, I was an opponent of America, I was a leftist protester, I was an activist in the Vietnam anti-war movement. Now, it's a long time ago, but given what we see happening to America, given what we see happening with the popularity of socialism, especially among young people, this is a worthwhile topic, and I'm qualified to speak on this topic because, you know, a lot of kids, when they're 15, 18, 20, or 22 in high school or college, flirt with socialism for 2 days, for 2 hours, 2 weeks, maybe 2 months or 2 years. But for me, it was for 2 decades. A long time ago, but I learned a lot. I have a lot of inside information that I haven't forgotten. I joined the Young Socialists in 1968, November 1968. I went to Woodstock, selling anti-war literature and selling the works of Marx and Engels to the stoned hippies in Woodstock. In 1971, I was in one of the big protests against the war in Vietnam, and I can tell you that we socialists, the group I was in was called the Socialist Workers Party. That's a pro-communist, pro-Cuba, total Marxist, extreme left group. We communists in those years knew what we were doing in undermining America, undermining the military in the Vietnam War. We loved John Kerry. He was only a few years older than me. We thought, wow, you know, we didn't put communists in the front line of those anti-war protests. That was undercover. That was secret. If we had a priest or a Vietnam veteran or a minister, we put them in the front. And John Kerry, we thought, wow, what a pompous guy, how ambitious, how phony, but he's willing to trash America in a congressional hearing. And the lies that the communists were spreading against America were propagated by someone foolish like John Kerry. Well, you know, the topic of this talk is socialism, how to fight it. And usually when I talk on campuses or to young people or church groups, and I try to talk especially to young people, the title of the talk is Socialism, What It Is and How to Fight It. I'm not going to talk about what it is, because first of all, I'm talking to you people who are the leaders for liberty and against socialism and against communism. You already know what socialism is. The more someone knows about socialism, the more opposed to it they are. Eastern European, Cuban, Russian, or Ukrainian immigrants, or Republican pro-liberty conservative activists like yourself. The less you know about socialism, the more uninformed you are about socialism, the more inaccurate information you're taught by your teachers about socialism, the more likely you are to support it. So I'm not going to talk about hundreds of millions of people killed. You know about that. I'm not going to talk about severe oppression and tyranny and war and violence and denial of religious rights. You already know about that. But just like today's education system gives false information against America and against the Constitution and against the history of our great nation, they give false, favorable information about socialism. In May and June of 1968, there was a revolt in France where workers went on strike and socialists and communists tried to make a revolution in France. It was unsuccessful. But part of the strategy that they had was that students would seize universities, which were the engines of the capitalist system. And they called it the Red University strategy. And this was attractive to me as a 17-year-old. And the concept that was taught to me was, you take over the universities and you use them as an organizing center for propaganda in favor of socialism. Now, that seemed like a pretty far-fetched idea in 1968. It is not a far-fetched idea. It is the reality. Today it's the reality. So those uninformed young people who don't really know a thing about socialism, that's who support it. And polls show astonishing levels of support and tolerance for socialism, especially among young people. But actually, it's not so astonishing if you think about it, because look what we've seen. Ever since the Vietnam War, the Democratic Party has been transformed. What used to be a foreign policy consensus and a consensus of both Democrats and Republicans to be opposed to communism, to be opposed to socialism, that was broken. And from the Vietnam era till the present, the Democratic Party has been moving further and further to the left. And we see acceptance of socialism as a major trend within the Democratic Party. We see the totalitarian impulse, the rejection of religious liberty, the rejection of free speech, the effort to curtail open debate. Well, we see that from the Democratic Party more and more. In Seattle, where I live, and by the way, actually, Kim, I think Jim McDermott was pretty brave to run against me, because they said, wow, Steve, you're running the 7th congressional district. That's a tough congressional district. I said, no, my district is the Constitution. My district is the United States of America. Jim McDermott is in a tough district. That's how I looked at it. But in Seattle, Shama Sawant, an open socialist running on the Socialist Party ticket, defeated a very far left Democrat by 53% or something like that, and was recently reelected. This would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. And the rise of Bernie Sanders and the socialist movement would have been unthinkable 10 years ago. Even the Democratic Party would not have accepted it. And this is just the beginning. The Democratic Party is moving further to the left. Anybody tell you there's no difference between the two parties? The Democratic Party is so far to the left, I can't even see them anymore. I want to tell you some inside information about the four most important lies that socialists are successful in inculcating into American culture. These are the four most important aspects of their propaganda that are leading to the popularity of socialism. Socialists are not necessarily interested in changing your mind on illegal immigration. They're not necessarily interested in changing your mind on abortion, or on foreign policy, or on monetary policy, or on taxation, or on Obamacare. In fact, while we, in our nature, as conservatives, as Republicans, we're trying always to persuade, to debate, to explain, and to convince. That's not the method of communists. That's not the method of socialists, and increasingly, that's not the method of Democrats. What the socialists want you, as conservatives, to believe is to accept their premises. And if you accept their premises, then it won't matter. You won't be able to talk. You'll be speaking a different language when you try to talk to young people. Here are the four most important lies of socialism. They're lies, they're not true, but I think as you hear them, you'll probably notice that these are lies that have seeped into American culture, and sometimes even conservatives, even Republicans, inadvertently follow these ideas. Number one, socialism is historically inevitable. Number two, once in effect, socialist policies are irreversible. Three, socialism does benefit people. It actually benefits mankind. And four, socialism is necessary because people are not able to do things for themselves. These lies seep through media, culture, and campuses, and now through the institution of the Democratic Party. But let's take them one at a time. Number one, socialism is historically inevitable. A lot of pro-liberty, a lot of pro-conservative, a lot of Republican people are pessimistic about the direction of the country and expect a negative result and assume that the socialist way is just going to get bigger and bigger, it's just going to be a steamroller. I saw that after Obama was elected in 2008. I saw that after he was re-elected in 2012. You know, Ronald Reagan had a different view of the future than Karl Marx and Frederick Engels. He didn't say that socialism was inevitable or that was the path of history. He said that there was no system more destined for the trash bin of history. He said our better days are ahead of us. We love him so much that sometimes when we think about his statement, better days ahead of us, we say, yeah, when he was president, that was really great. That's not what he meant. He said that while he was president. He was president, and we had some great things going on. The economy, jobs, strong military, renewed patriotism. He said, during that good time, he said, our better days are ahead of us. And our better days are ahead of us. Greater morality, stronger military, more patriotism, more citizenship, more knowledge about federalism and the vision of the founding fathers. More. That's my vision of the future. It ought to be yours. And don't let the propaganda about the inevitability of socialism and that we're just going to lose this republic. Don't believe it for a minute. Here's the second one. Once in effect, their policies are irreversible. Oh, if that law passes, we'll never be able to repeal it. If that law passes, we'll never be able to do anything about it. That will be the nail in the coffin. Now, I don't know if anybody here has ever thought or said that. It's wrong. No, socialism is the most reversible system. Let's look at those countries where socialism went to the furthest extent. East Germany, Czechoslovakia, Poland, Hungary, Romania. It was reversed. It was overthrown. When people say, you know, once 51% of the people get a government check or work for the government, that's it. You have a permanent majority, and then you're just on the road to socialism, and there's nothing you can do about it. The majority are on the government dole or working for the government. Absolutely wrong. And the socialists know that it's wrong. Sometimes a Republican might say that. Oh my God, 51%, we're doomed. No, socialists know that's a lie. Why do you think they cancel elections once they take power? Why do you think they outlaw political parties once they take power? They know what the actual impact on people is of socialism. It's not beneficial to them. Think about that. That's the third lie, that socialism is beneficial to people. That's the biggest lie of all, perhaps, because socialism is actually harmful. It's killed millions of people. It's destroyed creativity. It's blocked innovation. It's torn apart nations. It's harmful to mankind. So, the only way that you could say, once 51% agree with this or that, or on the government check, once 51% are under socialism, they're going to love it, they're going to say, is if you accept the premise that socialism is beneficial. Don't let that, if you find yourself sometimes thinking about that, make sure, did you get that? from Reagan, or did you get that from one of your professors? Finally, and I know this one, I'm looking at you, I don't think anybody here has ever thought this, but you know how. Government is necessary, big government is necessary, socialism is necessary, because people are stupid, they can't handle things on their own. It's better for them if the government does for them. How stupid can people be? Look who they voted for. How stupid can they be? Obama was like, now I know nobody has ever thought that here, right? When you're thinking about that, did you learn that from Ronald Reagan or from Rachel Maddow? Really? Really? These ideas that people are stupid, that socialism is beneficial, that once socialism comes into effect, that people will love it, and therefore it's historically inevitable. That's what they want you to think. And if they can get you thinking pessimistically, if they can get you thinking the opposite of Reagan's optimism, if they can get you counterposed against the people, they've won the battle. They don't care what your position on immigration or abortion is, because once they get power, they're going to take away your free speech anyway. Let's remember the stakes here, because we're really in a battle of ideas. And we have all the truth and arguments on our side. Like I said before, whoever knows the most about socialism is opposed to it. Whoever has the most experience with socialism is opposed to it. The ones who support socialism, who vote for Shama Sawant, who vote for Bernie Sanders, and look at the Democratic Party. You have a crazy socialist candidate plus a guy from Vermont. That's how I look at it. They're for big government. You know what that means? It means they're for small liberty. We're for limited government. That means we're for big liberty. Sometimes people say, well, how small do you want government to be? How about small enough to fit into the Constitution of the United States? If we don't fall for the trap of the 4 socialist lies, then we are able and we're equipped with the facts about socialism to win the battle of ideas. Because the other side is not winning people over by ideas, but by trickery and by coercion. Trickery first, coercion when it's too late. Let us be sincere, devoted, consistent, adoring defenders and advocates of liberty. Let's point out the virtues of the free market system and federalism and our great traditions. Let us point out those as virtues that benefit humanity. Socialism is destructive and corruptive of the human spirit, while liberty flourishes. The human race flourishes under liberty. Let us warn about the corruptive and dangerous and poisonous effects of living on entitlements, living on handouts, and living on dependency. With liberty, not socialism, it's liberty, it's capitalism, it's the free market system, it's the Republican form of government. That's why we call ourselves Republicans. With liberty, humanity advances and thrives. There's innovation, creativity. Living standards are better in capitalist countries than in communist countries. There's more enlightenment, there's more confidence, there's more security, there's more morality, better morality, and more energy in the human spirit. That's when America is at its best. When we remember our Constitution, when we remember what our founding fathers did, when we remember the Declaration of Independence. Medicine, law, education, science, commerce, all are better off under capitalism than under communism or socialism. When liberty is denied, blocked, curtailed, the human spirit is crushed, demoralized, stifled. Life is shorter, more brutal. In place of the vitality of liberty, there's the despair of tyranny. While liberty brings out the best in humanity, and that's what we're fighting for, Denial of liberty brings out the worst in humanity. More crime, more disease, more subjugation of women, more child abuse, more denial of religious liberty, more poverty, more illiteracy, more violence, ignorance, pollution, despotism, ethnic conflict, terrorism. We're in a battle of ideas. We must win. I want to conclude that the whole point of my talk is liberty and against socialism. The whole point of America is liberty. In fact, America is liberty and liberty is America. And let's take our Republican Party principles, free market system, individual responsibility, federalism, limited government, and so on. Let's take that and battle and win the fight of ideas. My experience of being a socialist for 22 years, that was bad. So if you have nephews or nieces or children or grandchildren that are going that way, tell them, no, get out now. Don't waste 20 years. Now look, luckily I'm 64 years old. You can tell I'm a young 64, so I still got plenty of time to make up for what I did and battle and combat socialism and destroy socialism. And like Reagan said, it will go into the trash bin of history. That's what's going to happen. You're going to be the ones that do it, right? You're the ones I'm looking at you. I left out the part where I'm saying I'm honored to speak before you, but because it's a cliche. But actually, I am honored to speak before you. When I look at you, wow, those are the people that stopped Al Gore from becoming president. Stop John Kerry. Let's get rid of Jay Inslee. Let's get Kim. Let's keep Kim in her spot. Let us redouble our efforts. In my heart, I became a Christian February 10th, 1995. So, and I recommend it. And at that time, I had, stopped being a socialist, but I was just a civilian. I was out of politics. I was just retired and just went and got jobs and learned about the internet and tried to make money and thought, oh, that's what capitalism is about. That's what freedom is about. And I started loving it. But I was just a civilian, and out of habit, I just kept voting Democrat, Democrat, Democrat. September 11th happened. Sometimes people say, wow, you went from socialist to Republican overnight? No, it didn't go overnight. Of course not overnight. Have you ever changed your mind? You don't change your mind overnight. You change your mind gradually, slowly, by reasoned argument. Not because someone threatened you or punched you or imprisoned you. That never changes people's mind. Socialists are not trying to change people's mind. They're trying to deceive and capture. Well, after September 11th, when I was a teenager and I was a socialist, I would go on these radio shows and argue against the war in Vietnam and argue against America in the most strong terms. So I called up, September 12th, 2001, I called up Barry Farber. That's the guy when Sean Hannity was a